Welcome back. I've been to the UK for the past couple of weeks. It was a 2-week trip to primarily London and Liverpool, and this is a video about all the Beatles places I visited. Here you can see, of course, Chiswick House and Chiswick Gardens or Chiswick Park, where the Beatles, of course, filmed their famous Paperback Writer and Rain videos in late spring 1966. And as you can see, we had a awesome day. The weather was almost exactly like the weather when they filmed it. This is a bench. I don't think it's the exact same bench, but this is the bench they sat on during the making of this video, where they took off their glasses. And of course, I did it myself too. I don't think it's exactly the same bench as in the video, but it's in the same place, and even the plants look the same. Now this is Henley on Thames. This is, of course, the very nice village where George Harrison lived from 1970, when he moved into Friar Park, until basically until he passed away in 2001. This was his primary home. He had, of course, homes in Australia and in Hawaii and other places, but this was really home to him for a good part of his life, and I can see why. It's a very peaceful, nice, and also for wealthy people kind of village. I think lots of rock stars lived, or maybe still live there, in his neighborhood. There were people of Deep Purple, Gary Moore, Alvin Lee. He was friends with all those people. Maybe they live still here, some of them who are still alive. Now this is Friar Park. This is the entry to his estate, and I was surprised that his estate, Friar Park, isn't really that far removed from the city center, because of all the image of him as the hermit, as the reclusive, but it's really like 5 minutes walking distance from the city center. Also these walls, this is Friar Park. Olivia, maybe Danny, still live there. It's a wonderful place, and to walk around Friar Park would take more than an hour. We didn't walk the full distance. It's really massive. So now we walk up to George's favorite pub in Henley. It's the Row Barge is the name of it. And from the outside, it's a very nice looking pub, of course, as usual with these quaint English towns. Here you can see him inside the pub. We couldn't go in. It was closed when we were there. But yeah, I can really imagine him walking, drunkenly walking home after a night out with Gary Moore or Ian Pace or something like that. Now we move to the Dingle. This is the exact opposite of Henley on Thames. This is maybe one of the least well-off areas in Britain. Now we're in Liverpool. And this is the Dingle, and this is, of course, the building that used to be the Empress pub, Ringo's, the favorite pub Ringo went to, and which was also on the cover of Sentimental Journey, his first solo album. And then we went to Menlove Avenue. Now, again, a bit a posher area, posher than the Dingle, of course, at least. Not as posh as Henley on Thames, I would say, but one of the posher areas of Liverpool, and it's Woolton. It's just the village Woolton, which is kind of a bit outside of the real city centre, and where all the central things in Liverpool are. So it's a suburb, and now we walk from the bus stop in Menlove Avenue to Strawberry Fields, or Strawberry Field. The song is called Strawberry Fields Forever, but the place is called Strawberry Field. Used to be a home of the Salvation Army back in the 40s, 50s, 60s, when Lennon remembered it and also wrote that song. Now it's dedicated to, of course, the memory of John Lennon and the Beatle connections of the place, and it's still, the money when you visit it still goes to this, what used to be the Salvation Army, but it's not really a home for the Salvation Army. These days, you can see this is now almost like a museum, like a small museum with lots of Beatle and Lennon merchandise. This video, you may see that the trees and everything looks a bit different to the footage from Henley and before that. This is a video I did more than a year ago on my first visit to Liverpool. Regular viewers of the channel will already know this footage, but I decided for this video to combine the best footage from last year's trip with this year's trip. So this is last year's trip, this is spring, like late March 2023. And now we walk from Strawberry Field, where John as a youngster used to play in the garden, to his home, where Aunt Mimi, Mendip's, their home in Menlove Avenue, where John grew up. It's literally just a 5-minute walk. There's not much editing now. We really take the walk John used to take from or to Strawberry Field back to his home, to Aunt Mimi's home now. And this year, this is still footage from last year, but this year we also took the National Trust tour of the Beatles homes, and you will see when the footage gets back to the footage from this summer, from 2 weeks ago, because in spring last year we couldn't go in. You only can go in when you book with a National Trust in advance. So this year we were smarter and booked in advance the National Trust Beatle Childhood Home Tour, where you can go inside John's house and also Paul's house in Forthlin Road. But this is still the walk to John's house from Strawberry Field. And I have to say it was really a magical moment when we could go in this year, and it was to be honest, it was forbidden to film in there. It was okay to film in the garden of the house, but it wasn't really allowed to film inside the house. But I filmed Mimi's bedroom and John's bedroom for a couple of seconds when no one else was in the room with me during the tour. I hope this doesn't get me into big trouble, but since there are photos of these rooms available online and in books and everything, it's not secret knowledge. I don't think I hurt anyone by doing that. So now we're in front of the house. This is Menlove Avenue. Oasis fans might know this picture as also the cover from the Live Forever single of Oasis. The house where John Lennon grew up, and now we switch from the footage from spring, this is still spring 2023, to the footage that I filmed 2 weeks ago. And now, as you can see, we can move in. So this is now summer. You also see it in the trees and the plants. This is summer 24, 2 weeks ago. We're standing in the garden of John Lennon's or Aunt Mimi's house. Here it's also allowed to film. And yeah, it was a magical moment. It was already a magical moment last year for me to stand in front of it, but now to go in there was really something else, something special. One of the highlights, maybe one of the highlights in my Beatle fandom life, I have to say at least. So this is the garden. If you're not a Beatle fan, this is probably one of the most boring, pointless videos ever. Now, at least these things I'm filming here. But it's John's garden. Some of the older plants are still from his time. I think this is Aunt Mimi's bedroom. Not really allowed to film there. I hope it's okay. Otherwise, I will delete that video. And this is John's bedroom. I slowed the pace of the video down here because I could just film like 2 or 3 seconds here. He was a big Brigitte Bardot and of course Elvis Presley fan. And this is something that's wrong. Here's a poster of Le Mépris, the film by Jean-Luc Godard, in his bedroom. That can't have been there when he was a youngster. They said it's the original bedroom from his time recreated, but this film came out. I'm a big Brigitte Bardot fan and also Godard fan. This film came out in 1963 when he already had moved out of the house. So a 23-year-old John Lennon, when he was on visit back in Menlove Avenue, wouldn't really, he wouldn't hang this poster up his bedroom, I think. But it's pretty safe to say that some Brigitte Bardot posters must have hung in his bedroom. Now we walk. This is also last year's footage, but I wanted to recreate the walk from John's house to Woolton. John's house is also in Woolton, but now to the city, to the core of the village that is Woolton, which is on a hilltop. You have to walk up a hill. And why am I doing this? Because, of course, I'm recreating the walk John must have walked in July 1957 in one of the probably most important days in rock and roll history, when he met Paul McCartney. This is the walk from John's house to where the Woolton Fete took place at St. Peter's Church. And it's a nice walk. It's like a 20-25 minutes walk up this hill, and then you're in this very beautiful, quaint, typical British village called Woolton, which is part of Liverpool, but really feels more like a rural town, and not really like the big city that is Liverpool and in the center and everything. So this is Woolton. We moved up. Me and my girlfriend moved up the hill now, and yeah, this must have been, because this is the most direct and also very, very nice looking way to go there from John's house to the Woolton Fete place. This must have been the way as John walked it back then in 1957. And now in the background, this is already St. Peter's Church, and in the backyard of the church, the Woolton Fete took place. Also interesting is the graveyard, of course, in that church, because there's a John Mackenzie, Father Mackenzie, one could say, and an Eleanor Rigby, and those two graves are very close to each other. Paul McCartney always said he didn't write Eleanor Rigby with that in mind. That must have been very subconscious, if at all subconscious, because he had the name Rigby, according to him, from a shop window he saw in Bristol, I think, when he visited Jane Asher there. And Eleanor is a very common name in Liverpool. Every second grave with a female in that graveyard was someone called Eleanor. So it's a very usual name, I think, back then in Liverpool. And also Rigby is a pretty common name. But, it's very possible that Paul walked by the grave when he was there during the Woolton Fete, where he met John, and maybe very, very subconsciously that went into the inspiration to, if you're very generous, into the inspiration to Eleanor Rigby. Now I'm searching for the grave. I found it here. Here's John Rigby. And where do we have Eleanor Rigby? It must be like, 10 meters, 15 meters away from it. Here we have Eleanor Rigby. Yes. And now we're moving to the place where the concert of the Quarrymen took place. Here in this backyard, the Quarrymen played. That's where the famous story comes from, where John Lennon played "Come Go With Me" by the Del Vikings and made up his own improvised lyrics, like he did with "Don't Let Me Down" in 1969 on the rooftop, when he forgot the lyrics. Also there he forgot the lyrics, and on the spot he made up better lyrics. And this is where John and Paul met. This is it, the exact place where they met. And soon after that, Paul could join the Quarrymen, soon to become the Beatles. And now another walk, or a bus drive, to be more precise, we are taking, is from the way back from the Woolton Fete to Paul's home in Forthlin Road, where he grew up. He didn't really grow up there. I think the McCartneys moved in there somewhere in the early to mid-50s. He grew up much more outside of the city centre even than this. But we're now going to the district of Allerton with the bus to Forthlin Road, where Paul grew up, with Jim, his father, and Mike, his brother. We didn't take the bus that's arriving now, but this is, of course, for a Beatle fan, nice to look at the Magical Mystery tour bus. So I filmed it, but we took the ordinary bus as Paul would have taken it. And I think you can already guess where we have to change bus. We now take not this bus, but we'll take the regular one to Penny Lane. We have to change at Penny Lane, as Paul probably had to after he went to the Woolton Fete. And from there we take the bus directly to Allerton and to where Paul lived back then in 1957. This is a barber, this is now Penny Lane, this is a barber, this is where the barber from the song used to be, but it's a different barber now. I think the barber from back then, his name was Bioletti. But yeah, this is the roundabout, the shelter in the middle of a roundabout at Penny Lane. And now we go by bus, as I said, to Paul's home. This is also footage from, maybe you can see it from, not from 2 weeks ago, but from spring, 1 year ago, more than 1 year ago. But you know, I wanted to recreate the full Beatles back in Liverpool. How would they go from place A to place B experience in this video. So now the bus, Paul always used to like to sit on the top of the bus. You know, once in an interview he said that one of the biggest things he's missing since he's famous is sitting on the top of a bus, of an ordinary bus. So now we are, as the Shields told you, at the proud home of Jim McCartney, where Paul and Mike were raised by his dad. You know, his mother died in the, I think, 55 or 56. Mary McCartney. And now Forthlin Road. Here you can see John taking a cup of tea in this kitchen. This is the kitchen in Forthlin Road, the house. They recreated the look from back then. This is also maybe familiar, this garden, because as you can see, this is the garden from the Chaos and Creation cover. Mike McCartney took this photo for excellent Paul McCartney solo album from 2005, but the photo, of course, is from 1962. Beatles on the verge of becoming famous. One of the last peaceful, tranquil moments maybe in Paul McCartney's life, where he wasn't a super famous celebrity. Yeah, that's Forthlin Road. That's as much as I could film, because again, wasn't really allowed to film in there, but here in the backyard, it was okay. It was allowed to film here, so nothing wrong with that. Yeah, that's Paul's home. That's how he moved out of the house. Again, for non-Beatle fans, probably extremely pointless, boring, frustrating video, but for Beatle fans, I think this is very, especially those who haven't been to Liverpool yet, I think a very rewarding look and a glimpse into Paul's life as a youngster, and of course also John Lennon, George Harrison. They must have been there many times in the early 60s.